We ordered the avocado toast. We paid $14. We felt good about it, but 4,000 miles away, someone else was paying the real price, and they had no choice in the matter. Let's start with the number 2.4 million metric tons. That's how much avocado the world consumed in 2023. And the demand is still climbing. The United States alone imports over 1 billion pounds of avocados every single year. The vast majority, roughly 80%, comes from one state in Mexico, Michoacán. Now, Michoacán is a beautiful place, thick pine forest, cool mountain air, rivers running through valleys, or at least it is used to look like that. In the 90s, the North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, opened the doors for Mexican avocados to flood the US market. But that avocados were a regional fruit. After NAFTA, they become a global obsession. Farmers in Michigan quickly realized something. Avocados made 3 to 4 times more money per acre than any other crop. So they did what any rational person would do. They planted more and then more, and then they needed more land, and that land had come from somewhere. Here's what most people don't know. Growing avocados in extraordinarily water intensive. One single avocado requires about 320 liters of water to produce. That's roughly 85 gallons for one fruit. Compare that to a tomato, which needs about 13 gallons, or an orange, which needs around 22. In a state that is increasingly facing water scarcity, is not a small problem. Between 2000 and 2022, Mexico lost approximately 1.1 million acres of forest, and researchers at the National Autonomous University of Mexico have directly linked a significant portion of that destruction to illegal avocado farming expansion. Here's how it's worked. Official regulations says you can't just cut down a forest to plant avocados. So farmers sometimes log the land illegally, often at night, and then plant their orchards. By the time authorities notice, the trees are gone and the avocados are already grown. And here's the dark part. Organized crime got involved. Michoacan is the home territory of one of Mexico's most powerful cartels, the Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generacion, or CJNG, and they spotted the avocado boom early. By the 2010s, cartels had established what locals call a derecho de peso, essentially a tax on avocados farmers. You want to grow, you pay. You want to transport your fruit, you pay. You want to sell at the packing house, you pay. The US Department of Justice has documented cases where cartel revenues from avocado extortion ran into the tens of millions of dollars per year. This is not fringe criminality. This is a supply chain that, in some regions, has been partially taken over by organized crime. Now let's talk about the people who actually grow and harvest these avocados, because their story is just as important. Most avocado pickers in Michoacan earn between 200 and 350 Mexican pesos per bag. That's roughly 10 to 18 US dollars. They work in heat on steep hillsides, often without proper safety equipment. Many are indigenous Puruchipa people, communities that have lived in these mountains for centuries, who now find themselves working on land that was once communal forest. Some have benefited, make no mistake. Avocado wealth has built roads, schools, and homes in part of Michoacan. But the distribution is widely unequal. The big exporters and US retailers capture the lion's share of the profit. The pickers who sweated in orchard for 8 hours, they see almost none of it. Once picked, avocados go through a packing house where they are stored, washed, labeled, and boxed. From there, refrigerated trucks carry them to the US border, primarily through the crossing at Park, Texas, which is the busiest commercial crossing in America and handles billions of dollars of produce annually. After crossing the border, the avocados are stored in temperature-controlled warehouses. They are shipped to distribution centers. They trucked to supermarkets. They sit in your store's refrigerated section for anywhere from 3 to 14 days before you pick them up. The total distance from a farm in Michoacán to a supermarket in, say, New York, roughly 2,500 to 3,000 miles, and the entire cold chain, from farmer to store, relies heavily on diesel fuel. The carbon footprint of an avocado is a genuinely complicated calculation, and researchers disagree on the exact number. But a 2021 analysis published in the journal Sustainability found that the total life cycle emissions of an avocado purchased in Europe or North America, including land use change, water pumping, transport, and refrigeration, can range from 0.8 kg to over 2 kg of carbon dioxide equivalent per kilogram of fruit. That might not sound like much, but when you multiply it across 1 billion pounds of imported avocados per year in US alone, you start to see a different picture. We are talking about hundreds of thousands of metric tons of carbon emissions per year just to satisfy Americans' brunch habits. Here's something almost no one talks about. The price of avocados at your local store has almost nothing to do with the actual cost of producing them. It has everything to do with market speculation, brand positioning, and the supply chain markup at every single street. A farmer in Michoacán typically sells a kilogram of avocados for around 10 to 15 pesos, about 50 to 75 cents. By the time that same kilogram reaches a US retailer, it's priced at $4 to $8 or more. That's a markup of anywhere from 600 to 1600%. The people who added almost no physical value, logistic companies, brokers, and retailers, capture nearly all of it. Now, before you throw your avocado toast in the bin and swear up guacamole forever, let's be honest about something. Individual consumer choices, while meaningful, are not the primary lever here. The scale of this problem requires systematic change. That said, there are things happening that give real reason for hope. Organizations like Rainforest Alliance and Fair Trade USA now certify avocados farms that meet environmental and labor standards. Retailers like Whole Foods and Costco have made commitments to secure from verified sustainable suppliers, and some Mexican state governments are now using satellite monitoring to catch illegal deforestation in real time. In 2022, the US government briefly suspended avocado imports from Michoacán after a US agricultural inspector received a death threat, a shocking reminder of just how volatile this supply chain has become. The suspension lasted only 1 month, but it sent a message to the Mexican government that the situation needed attention. Meanwhile, a growing number of avocado farms are experimenting with drip irrigation, shade-grown orchards that coexist with native trees, and water recycling systems that dramatically cut down on consumption. These farms exist. They are not just yet the majority. The power to change that lies primarily with large buyers, the Walmarts, Targets, and Amazon of the world, who have enough purchasing leverage to demand better standards across the entire supply chain. Individual consumer can play a role by buying certified products and by supporting legislation that requires supply chain transparency. It would be wrong to tell this story without acknowledging something. Many Mexican farmers, environmentalists, and indigenous communities are fighting hard to protect their land and their future. Groups like the Unión de Comuneros Emiliano Zapata have organized to resist illegal logging. Activists persist like Father Goyo have documented violence against those who spoke out. These people are not victims waiting to be saved by conscious consumers abroad. They are agents of change in their own right, and they deserve our attention, our solidarity, and frankly, a better deal from the global food system that profits so heavily from their labor and their land. So the next time you slice open an avocado, and I hope you still do, maybe take one extra second to think about the 2500-mile journey it made to get to you. Think about the pine forest that once stood where that orchard now grows. Think about the picker who woke up before the sunrise to harvest it. and think about the system we have all built and can all help change. Food is never just food. It's a political act, it's an economic system, it's a relationship between you, the land, and the people on the other side of the planet. The question isn't whether you should eat avocado. The question is, what kind of world do you want your appetite to build?